Hello all. This is page 223 to 225, number 1 to 11, and equations, your homework. So it's number 1 says, look at the algebraic expressions and equations below. Which are expressions and equations? Well, I've got signified EQ if it's an equation and EX for an expression. So 4W equals 48 is an equation because it's got equal sign. Once it's balancing, one side equals the other. B, G minus 11 is an expression. There's no equal sign. It doesn't say what it's equal to. Okay, G could be anything. Okay, 3D plus 5, also no equal sign, expression. D, x over 12 equals 8 is an equation because it's got an equal sign. Okay, it balances. X can only be one thing. Okay, I minus 5 over 10 equals an expression. Okay, right there you could put I could be anything. Okay, but not in an equation. F, 6z plus 1 equals 67 is an equation. Okay, so that one's pretty basic. Now it says solve the ones that are equations for number 2. So, for number 2, okay, now we're on number 2. 4w equals 48. Well, you could use a systematic approach, and I go, well, I'll say, well, maybe it's 10. So I got 4 times 10 equals, okay, I know that equals 40. So it's got to be higher. Then I look, well, one more is going to be another 4, but I'll try one more. 5 times 11 equals 44. No, 4 times 12 equals 48. Okay, so then I go W equals 12. Okay. Now, another way to do that, kind of my, as you know, my preferred method. Just get this a little bigger. Okay. We need to isolate that variable, get it by itself, okay? So how can we do that? So we got 4w equals 4. How do we get this w by itself? It's 4 times w. So if we divide this side by 4, and then of course we have to do this side. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. So that's 1w equals 48 divided by 4 equals 12. And 1w is simply w equals 12. Okay, so that's another way to do that one. D, okay, this one's a little more confusing, I think, for people. X over 12 equals 8. Okay, well, something divided by 12 equals 8. So let's say, so we're looking for multiples. Well, I know that 60 is a multiple of 12, so I'm going to go 60 divided by 12, and that I know, then I go, okay, that equals 5, so it's got to be higher. So let's try one higher. 72 divided by 12. Sorry, divided by 12. Okay, that equals 6. Okay, so then here I can start to think, well, if I add one more, it's going to be 7, so I need to add 2 more. So it's going to be, so 12 more than this would be 84, so it's going to be 96. Now to do my other way, so 96, okay. But let's just do it. Erase this. Oops. Okay. So we got x over 12 equals 8. Now, something I think maybe it's easy. When this is x over 12, it's the same as 1/12 times x equals 8. Now, what do you have to multiply 1/12 by? Okay, because we're trying to isolate x. We want to isolate x. We want 1x over here. How do we make this 1? Okay, well, let's solve a simpler problem over here. We have, say if it was 1/2. How do we make 1/2? What do we multiply by 1/2? Okay, well, we multiply by the inverse, 2 over 1 times 2 over 1 equals 2 over 2, okay, which equals 1 over 1, which equals 1. So when you see this, okay, so if it's 1/12 or x divided by 12, if I multiply by 12, that will give me x. Okay, so here we go. So I've got 1/12, so we're going to go 12. And then, but then over here we have to go 12 as well. So these 12s cancel each other out. We got 1 over 1, which x equals 8 times 12. So we got x equals 96. Okay? Same. Okay? Now f, this one we have, we didn't have a constant for the other one. We had a numerical coefficient. And maybe it doesn't, like on D, doesn't, like, what's the numerical coefficient? Well, you can see here, 1/12 is the numerical coefficient. So now we're looking over here, we've got 6z plus 1 equals 67. Now we're, okay, well, what's our first thing we want to do? Well, we want to get this variable by itself. So 6z plus 1, first thing to get rid of, let's subtract that 1 right here. Okay, and those 2 there, they cancel that out. We want to get that variable by itself. Okay, so then we got, just going to erase this little equation sign here. So then we got, we subtracted 1 on this side of the equation. Well, we've got to subtract 1 over here. So now we have 6z equals 66. Okay, now you can, at this point, you could solve it different ways. You could solve it, you get systematic. You could have done that at the beginning. You could go, well, 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2, or say 6 times 10, and know is 60. So then that's not enough. But I like the way that we've been doing it in class. We've got to divide by 6 so that we make that 1. So we do that on this side, equals 11. So we have z equals 11. Okay, so that is question number 1 and question number 2. So question 3, Schenker gives 10 CDs to his brother. Schenker then has 35 CDs. A, write an equation you can solve to find how many CDs Schenker had to begin with. Now, I saw different people write this different ways, but the way that it should really be written is how I've written it here. So we say we want to find out how many CDs Schenker had to begin with. So right at the beginning of the sentence, at the beginning, he had n. We don't know how many he had. But then what did he do? He gave 10 CDs to his brother. So he subtracted 10 from this n that he had to begin with. Okay, he subtracted 10, but then he had 35. So that's our equation. Okay, so then write that here. So then we got here. So we got to get this. We got to isolate the variable n minus 10. So we add 10. Okay, so minus 10 and plus 10, that cancels each other out. Well, we've got to add 10 over here, and I didn't do it right away, but 35 plus 10, so equals 45. So Schenker had 45 CDs to begin with. Remember, when you answer a word problem, you need words in the answer. If you just put the answer 45, and not even at a minimum like 45 CDs, okay, then you're not going to get full marks because you have to answer it in words. Okay, so that is number 3. So for number 4, it says write an equation for each sentence, solve each equation by inspection. I'm not the biggest fan of inspections. I think the kind of the balancing way we're doing it is easier, so I'm going to work with that, and we'll mention inspection as well. But 7 more than a number is 18. So we start with 7 more than a number. We don't know the number, so that's our variable n, plus 7 equals 18. Now if we're going to do inspection, they just say, well, what's a number that added to 7 equals 18? And we can do that. It's 11 plus 7 equals 18. Okay, but when it's a bigger number, that would be more difficult. Okay, down here, if we could did it our regular way, n plus 17 equals 18. Well, we got to get the n by itself, so we're going to subtract 7 over here, and then the same for this side. We get n equals 11. So for B up here, we've got n minus 6 equals 24. Okay, again, if you want to do it by inspection, well, I know that 30 minus 6 equals 24, but that might be hard for some people. So if we do it our regular way, we're n minus 6, well, we add 6 to isolate the n by itself. Okay, so that is 0 now, it's just n, but we got to add 6 to the other side. We have n equals 30. So, okay, so I think the balancing way is just an easier, more intuitive way, but if that's not works for you, then you can use that, and certainly the systematic way works as well. So for C, here we've got 5n equals 45. Okay, and again, it seems you can do the by inspection. Okay, well I know that 5 times 10 is 50. Oh, so it's 5 less, so maybe that makes it should be 9. Okay, or maybe you go 5 times 8, or you start and you work your way. Or you can do our regular way. So we've got down here, I've already crossed it off, but I've got 5n. And how do we isolate that 5n? Well, we divide it by 5. Okay, we divide it by 5. I'm going to erase that. I shouldn't have done that right off the bat. Okay, so we got our 5n equals 45, and we need to get that n. So that's how do we do that? We divide by 5. Okay, and the 5's now we have 1n, but we divided by 5 on one side. We've got to divide by 5 on the other. Okay, and that to 9. So we have n equals 9 for C. Now for D, n over 6 equals 72. So a number divided by 6 equals 7. Okay? Well, again, this is the same, n over 6 is the same as writing 1/6 times n. Okay? And if you multiply any fraction, or if you multiply 1 over 6 by the inverse, 6 over 1, okay, you're going to get the number 1. So 1/6 of 6 is going to be 1. So we've got 1/6 times 6 times n. So these ones cross out. We're left with the 1. Okay, equal. But we did it to the one side, so we times this side by 6. We're going to times the other side by 6 over here. Okay, and that's 42. We've got n equals 42. And then for E, we got 4n plus 3 equals 19. First thing we got to do, I'm just going right to our method. We got to isolate this variable. First thing we do, we got to get rid of that constant on this side. Okay, so we had plus 3, so we put a minus 3 to get rid of it. So we went with minus 3 from the left, we got a minus 3 from the right. So now we got 4n equals 16. Okay, now I've taken the liberty here. See, now so we had the 4n here, and then 19 minus 3 is 16. So now we got 4n. Again, I maybe skipped a step here, but we got 4n equals 16. Then I've divided by 4, which gives us 1n. And over here we divided by 4, and it gives us, okay, that's 1, simplify 4. N equals 4. Okay, so that is question 4. So for question 5, it says write an equation you could use to solve each problem. Solve each equation by systematic trial. So I've solved these in our method we're doing in class. Aiko bought 14 DVDs for $182. She paid the same amount for each DVD. How much did each DVD cost? Well, up here, she's got 14 DVDs, so the numerical coefficient is 14. N is the variable. That's the price. We don't know the price. We're trying to figure that out. Okay? But we know it's $182. Okay? So we've got 14N equals 182. So here I've got 14N, and we've got to isolate this N. So we need to divide by 14, which we did here. Okay, they cancel each other out. We have to do the same to the other side, and we end up with 13 DVDs. Okay, for B it says, Kahu collects beaded leather bracelets. She lost 14 of her bracelets. Kahu has 53 bracelets left. How many bracelets did she have to begin with? So we don't know at the beginning, so we put it at the front. Here, N, we don't know. But then she lost 14 bracelets, so she was minus 14 of what she had originally. She ended up with 53. Okay, then we've got the same thing, n minus 14, so we add 14 to here to isolate n. We have to add 14 to the other side, so we can see that Kahu had 67 bracelets to begin with. Okay, I might write that she has 67. Kahu has 67, had 66 bracelets to begin with, but for now I'm just putting bracelets. Okay, for C, Manuel gets prize points for reading books. He needs 100 points to win a set of tangrams. Manuel has 56 points. When he reads 11 more books, he will have 100 points. How many points does Manuel get for each book he reads? Okay, so it says here he's got, he needs to read 11 more books. He'll have 100. So here I'm going to start backwards. He will have 100. So that's what we're going to equal. He will have 100. Okay? But he needs, and right now he has 56 points. Okay, that's not going to change. Okay, that's the constant. But now he needs to read 11 more books, so that's the numerical coefficient. Okay, n is the points. We don't know how many points, okay, he gets for each book. First thing we need to do is isolate n, so let's get rid of that constant. Okay, we've got 11n plus 56, so we minus 56 here. Okay, they cancel each other out, but then we had to minus 56 over here. Okay, so then we end up with 11n equals 44. I've rewritten it over here, and then we got to get rid of that 11n, make it just n. We divide by 11. We do to one side, we do to the other. We can see that n equals 4 points. Okay, make sure you're putting at least that word in there. So question 6 says the perimeter of a square is 48 centimeters. Write an equation you can solve to find the side length of the square. Well, a square's got all the same length, so we don't know this length, we don't know, it's n. But what we do know is that this one's n, because it's a square, so it's the same length. Okay? So I know if you add them up, n plus n plus n plus n, they're going to equal 48 centimeters. Okay? Okay, because they're all the same. So that, another way to write that is 4n equals 48 centimeters. Okay, now from there, how are we going to solve that? Well, we got to isolate n, so we're going to divide by 4 to get 1. We've got to do it over here. Okay, so we have n equals 12 centimeters. Okay, that's number 6. So for number 7, a little more difficult, just a bit of a reverse. It says the side length of a regular hexagon is 11 centimeters. So what's a regular hexagon? Okay, a regular hexagon, regular means it's got all sides the same. Okay, so I've actually drawn it there. Okay, poorly drawn a hexagon, but then you can see I've labeled it there with the side lengths. But we know that. But we want to do this with an equation. So we're thinking, okay, well how many sides are there? Well, there's 6 sides. Okay. What's the perimeter? Well, we don't know. So let's say we're going to let n equal the perimeter. Because we don't know the perimeter. Okay. What's the side lengths? Side length, okay, equals 11. As you can see, got drawn all over here. Okay, so how do we figure this out? Well, we know if we take the perimeter, okay, and in this case, it's going to be not p for perimeter. We've decided it's going to be n. I should have probably made it p for perimeter. Let's do that. That was too late. Okay, let p equal perimeter. Okay, so we got the perimeter. Okay, and we're like, well, so that's the whole. Now if we divide by the side length, so 11, we know we're going to get how many sides there are, which in this case is 6. So that's our equation. Now, let's look at another one right here, just the same one, just a simpler one. Okay, say I had a square, and its side length 2. Well, we know the perimeter equals 8, right? 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 8. The perimeter equals 8. Okay, and we know, okay, that the side length is 2. So we've got 8 divided by 2 equals 4. Okay, and 4 equals the number of sides we have. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this same equation, perimeter divided by side length equals the number of sides. Okay, and then if we wanted to, now that we want to solve it, okay, how do we do this? Well, we need to get p all by itself. So let me just erase some of this. Okay, sorry, I had a phone ring there and I don't quite remember where I was. So let's see. We've got, I think I was finished. So we got p over 11 equals 6. We got p over 8. Okay, so I think this is it. So that, yeah, so the equation is p equals, oh, I know, I was just erasing some. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to erase this right here. Okay. So now there's our, well, now we got our formula. Okay, now we're going to solve it. So P over 11 equals 6. So now how do we get rid of this? How do we make this P? Well, remember it's like 1/11, so we times by 11 on both sides. Okay. And these cross out, and it becomes perimeter equals 66, and it's in centimeters. Okay, so that is number 7. So number 8 says, use question 6 and 7 as a guide. Write your own problem about side length and perimeter of a figure. Write an equation you can use to solve the problem and solve the equation. Well, as you know, I like to solve a simpler problem. I wanted to do this just so it gives me a guide to help me. Okay, so put the side lengths of a triangle are all 2 centimeters. Well, so it's a regular triangle, also known as an equilateral triangle, because all the sides are 2 centimeters, so we know the same. So here's 2, 2, and 2. We want to find the perimeter. So we say let P equal perimeter. We got the perimeter. Okay. So we don't know the perimeter, but we know that the side lengths are all 2. So we know that if we divide by the perimeter, okay, by the side lengths, we'll have the number of sides of the triangle, which is of course 3. So we got P divided by 2 equals 3. So now we got isolate P, so we multiply by 2, and cross off, multiply the other side by 2, and we got 6. Okay, and that makes sense, right? So that's why I like this simpler one. I know the perimeter is 6, because I can see this is 3 2s, it's simple. So sometimes if you have a tougher problem, it's a good idea to use this solve a simpler problem method to use as a guide. So for number 9, it says Eli has 130 keychains. He keeps 10 keychains for himself, then shares the rest equally among his friends. Each friend then has 24 keychains. So A, write an equation you can use you can solve to find how many friends were given keychains, and B, solve the equation by inspection, then by systematic trial. Which method was easier to use? Explain your choice. So I think we'll just use our regular method, but the hard part here is getting the equation. So look at it, we got here, go let F, up top here, let F represent the number of friends who were given keychains. So that's going to be our variable. Before sharing with friends, Eli had how many? We had 130 minus 10. Well, you say, no, he had 130. Yeah, but of the ones he's going to share, it was 130 minus the 10 he was going to keep for himself. That's what he's dividing amongst his friends. Okay? So each friend then received 24 keychains. So he had 130 minus 10 keychains that he was giving to his friends. Okay? And he was dividing them equally amongst his friends. They're all getting, so you're dividing by the number of friends. Okay? And then that means they each got 24. Okay? So now we're going to go, okay, well, so 120, which is 130 minus 10, divided by F equals 24. So this one is a little more confusing about what to do, just the way we've been doing it. So I'm going to kind of go through this, the systematic, or the way they did in the book too, like kind of like more of the guess and check method too. Well, because we look at this, we say 120 divided by something equals 24. Like, okay, well, what about, I'm looking, you know, it's got a 0, so I know it's divisible by 10. So I go 120 divided by, if F is 10, so let's say 120 divided by 10, and then go, okay, that equals 12. Okay, that's not 24, so that's not right. But I look at what's the relationship between 12 and 24. It's 24 is double, so I go, oh, okay, so what if I did, so that tells me, what if I do 120 divided by 5, okay, and that does equal 24, okay? So that's kind of more the inspection. I kind of look and what number would work. Or I could just go, okay, it's by systematic, 120, I'm going to say, oh, I know, maybe I'm thinking it's 3. So 120 divided by 3 equals, okay, it's 40. Okay, so that's not going to work. 120 divided by 4, okay, is 30. That's not going to work. So then I do 120 divided by 5. Oh, 24. There's systematic. Okay, and this one is the inspection method. Okay, I'm going to go over how I would do it. Just going to clear this off. So we got 120 divided by f equals 24. Okay, so now we're like, well, I know before in the year we talked about cross multiplication. So 24 is really 24 over 1, right? So we look, so what do we do to 20 to get to 24? And then we do the same thing here. Okay, but we can also look at it this. We can cross multiply like we did earlier in the year so 120, okay, so going across, 120 times 1 equals 24 times f. So just as a reminder, okay, if I look up here, if I have 6 over 3, if things are equal, equals 2 over 1, I cross multiply. 6 times 1 equals 3 times 2. Okay, it always works, assuming that it is indeed an equation. Okay? Just erase those a little bit. Okay. So now the other way, okay, would be to I'll erase. Let me just erase this whole page. This might, I'm going to show you anyway. I think this might be just a little more confusing, but I'm going to try. Because for some of you, this might be the way you like it best. Okay, so we got 120 divided by f equals 24. Okay, so now I'm dividing by f here. So how can I get f by itself? Well, this one's more of a two-stage process. So I'm going to go, well, you know what? I got to get f here. I got to get f all by itself. I'm not sure. So you know what? What if I multiply, get rid of this f, and I'm going to kind of switch this. So say 120 over f, and I'm going to actually times it by f on this side, and this is 24, times that by f. Now, oh, that f and that f cross each other out. So now we have 120 equals 24f. Okay, divide by 24, divide by 24. Okay, f equals 5. Okay, so hopefully one of those methods worked for you. So for number 10, it says find the value of n that makes each equation true. Okay, so for A, 3n equals 27. Okay, this one's relatively simple. We've got 3n, so we got to isolate n, get it by itself. So now we need to divide by 3. So we divide by 3, and we cross those out. We get n, but we got to divide the other side by 3. 27 divided by 3 is 9. So n equals 3. Okay. So for B, we got over here 2n plus 3 equals 27. So we got a minus 3 here to get rid of this constant. So we got to do the same to the other side. Now we have 2n equals 24. Okay, 2n, we divide to get n equals 24 over 2, which gives us 12. N equals 12. Okay, so now on to C and D. So let's see, C is 2n minus 3 equals 27. Okay, so again, we want to get rid of this constant. So we're going to add 3. Okay, and so we're going to add 3 there. We're going to add 3 there. So we got 2n, okay, that's gone now, equals 30. Okay, divide by 2, divide by 2. N equals 15. Okay, and then for D, we've got n over 3 equals 27. Okay? Remember, this is like 1/3 times n equals 27. So then we're going to multiply it, okay, by 3 over 1 over by 3. Then we're going to multiply this side by 3. So that these cross out, becomes n equals, okay, 27 times 3. Well, 3 times 20 is 60. 3 times 7 is 21, so n equals 81. So for number 11, it says, write a problem that can be described by each equation. Solve each problem. Solve each equation. Which equation was most difficult to solve? Why do you think so? So we'll just go through. So for A, I've done some samples here. 2x minus 1 equals 5. I put Jason bought 2 slices of pizza and was given a $1 discount. He paid $5 in total. How much is each piece of pizza? And if you solve it, it's x equals $3 for each piece of pizza. For B, 4y equals 24. I kept it simple. The perimeter of a square is 24 centimeters. What is the side length of the square? Okay, and y equals 6. I don't think we need to solve these. More about creating the equations. So for C, it says z over 38 equals 57. Well, this one seems a little tougher to me, but I put the total number of students of a school are divided into 38 groups. Each group has 57 students. What is the total number of students in the school? So here, Z is representing total number of students in the school. We want to divide them into 38 groups, so we're dividing it by 38, and then it ends up being 57 in each group. Now, this one's going to be harder because these are bigger numbers. We don't know these math facts when we do it. Okay, so I'm going to go down here. I haven't solved the other one. We're going to solve this one. So we got Z over 38 equals 57. And remember, 57 is 57 over 1. So we have cross multiplication, 1 times z, which is 1z, equals 38 times 57. So here we got 1 times z equals 38 times 57. Okay? So this equals z equals 38 times 57. I don't know what that is, so let me just get my calculator. 38 times 57 equals 2,166. Okay? Now, if I wanted to do that kind of the other way that I showed you, okay, so let me just erase this part. Okay? So we got Z over 38, okay, equals 57. Okay, so how can we do this? How can we get rid of this and make this Z all of a sudden? Well, because it's divided by, if we multiply it by, right now it's 1 over 38. So if we times this side by 38, okay, those cross each other off, but then you have to multiply this side by 38, which is what we ended up doing. So that's our answer for C. So for D, it's 5x plus 5 equals 30, and the question I made up was Jasmine has 5 hockey cards. So that's right here, the constant. She's already got 5. She buys 5 packages of hockey cards. She now has 30 hockey cards, so she got 30 hockey cards in total. How many cards are in each pack? So this is X, we don't know. She bought 5 packs, but how many cards are in each pack? So 5x plus 5 equals 30. So we'll do this one. 5x plus 5 equals 30. Okay, so minus 5 here. So we got 5x equals 25. So if you want to do the different methods, you can go systematic. Well, 1 times 5 is 5, 2 times 5 is 10, 3 times 5, so on. Or we can do isolate x, and we get x equals 5. Okay, there's your homework. Okay. Thank you, people.